Six-time SKFL champ Casey Taker joins us. We're talking Labor Day, we're talking running backs, and we're talking about week 1 coming up. Let's go! Let's fucking go! Casey Tager, happy Labor Day.
What's up, Rob? Man, I'll tell you what I've realized right now is the longest week of the year is the weekend between the SKFL draft and Labor Day and getting ready for this week, because it feels like our draft was way longer ago than 8 days. It feels like it's been a month. So, man, I'm ready for it. It's been
a lot of good stuff has happened, though. DeBoer looks like passing game looks good. Oregon fucking in the tank. We love it.
I know, and I was kind of back and forth watching the Huskies as I could. I always have like a big friends draft that Saturday of Labor Day, so I didn't get the full visual of everything, but what I saw and just looking at the stats, and I haven't watched the replay yet, but yeah, I mean that's exactly what you wanted to see from the Huskies.
It certainly passed the eye test. It looked like hot knife through butter, which is what you want the Huskies to be doing against teams like Kent State. Okay, we're not here to talk college football. We brought Casey on today. He has ranked the top 12 running back rooms in the SKFL. And so what I'm going to do, Casey, is I'm going to share my screen, put up the information that you had sent me. Thank you for doing so.
Just a quick 1, 2, 3. There might be a move or I might talk about a move. We'll leave it at that list that I did last week. But I think I've maneuvered a little bit of people around, but I think the tiers are basically the same.
Okay. So what we have here, and I haven't done a lot of analysis of the running back, so I'll let you kind of have the floor here for the next 20 minutes or so. You put them in a different category, so we'll start with the big 3, multiple studs.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, I mean, a ton of credit to Keenan coming out of the draft. I think, sitting in the car, knowing I was going to play Keenan twice, looking at his keepers, I thought that was going to be a cakewalk. I thought that was going to be, okay, just give me 2 wins. But, I mean, to make the trade with AJ, get back up to 1 and have the 1-2 to go Cook Mixon. And then Fournette just felt like one of those guys that fell in the draft. I mean, he's got, 2 top 10 backs with another guy that's in that 12 to 15 range. He's throwing out 3 running back ones, essentially, which it's funny that he takes over Yusuf's team, which that was always the Yusuf philosophy: get 3 stud running backs, score 100 plus out of that position, and let everything else fall into its place. But yeah, I mean, I thought going into the draft, Dalvin Cook was the no-brainer best player available. He goes and secures him by keeping that second and grabbing Mixon. Now, I mean, personally, I think I would have had some of the other running backs that fell, like Kamara and Barkley, actually above Mixon, but nothing wrong with Mixon at all, especially as your 2. And then to follow it up with Fournette as your 3, I mean, that's why I've got Keenan up there. Is, Fournette's the best running back 3 out of anybody in the SKFL right now.
You saying he's better than Cordarrelle Patterson?
Yeah, I think so, just a little bit. I mean, people forget, Fournette is up and down, but the way he caught last year with Brady, now, I mean, they brought some guys in and Gio's there, but man, that guy, I mean, I think he led the league in receptions or targets, one of the 2. So you're getting a PPR stud in Leonard Fournette in a great offense. And yeah, I just love all 3 of those guys.
All right, at number 2, you've got Jeffrey Tager. Let's go take a look at his running backs.
Yeah, I mean, he comes in and keeps Swift and Eckler. So you knew running back was going to be a strength coming in.
I like Edmonds. I like.
Yeah, exactly.
You got a good pick.
You take the 3 young rookies out of there and just wait and see on Rachaad White, Zamir White, and James Cook. But then Chase Edmonds is your 3. He's another guy that's got 2 top 10 backs. Eckler and Swift are going in, the first round, late first round, early second in any draft. So he gets 2 of them. And then same thing, a lot of these power ranks are going to be more based on the, what your RB3 is. And I do like Chase Edmonds. He's a guy in the last 10 days. I think that personally, I have him moved up. I think, dropping Sonny Michel off of that team just frees up another 5 to 10 carries out of that offense. If Mostert can't stay healthy, they paid Chase Edmonds. He's got speed. You can kind of see what Miami wants to do on the ground. They're just going to spread you out with all of their speed all over the place. And Chase Edmonds can catch and he can bust them. So, we've never really seen Chase long term for a full season hang on to that job and not
Injury
get hurt. But yeah, I mean, as your 3 behind Eckler and Swift, I mean, I think Eckler's your, the 3rd back in any league. Swift is sitting there in the 7 to 10 range. So Jeffrey, I mean, like I said, this is that multiple studs tier, and he's got 2 of them. And then Edmonds looks good. And then if any of those young young rookies step in, watch out, because then he's got a 4th guy to plug and play.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind putting 20 on Zamir White at some point. Unseat or timeshare 50-50 with Jacobs. Just there's a lot of just negative juice around Josh Jacobs.
I agree.
As a guy who owned him last year and a guy who owned Edmonds, they were both pretty steady Eddies. But
yes, Jacobs surprised me last year, and then I kind of fell into all the negative talk. I mean, and I can see it going both ways. They don't pick up his 5th-year option, so he is a free agent. So are they going to just run him into the ground because they're not committed to him next year? If he falls apart and breaks down, so what? Because you got Zamir for the future. But I also think you want to see what Zamir is. And then, I mean, I think the big thing for the Raiders offense is you got McDaniels there, and you've seen what he's done in New England for his entire career coaching.
Right.
That guy just mixes up the running back rotation pretty consistently. So you have a feeling that a 3rd down back is going to be there. And then, I could see Jacob almost kind of like what Stevenson and Harris were last year. I could see that being the Jacobs and Zamir White split.
Definitely could see that. I would probably bet on it. Kenny, you have at 3. He's got the big dog, Derrick Henry. Hopefully he can stay healthy for Kenny this year. He's got Javonte and something of a what the hell's going on timeshare with Melvin Gordon. He's got CEH probably undervalued at this point. And then Dontrell Hilliard, he's got the backup for Henry. How do you stack? Why is Kenny at 3?
Yeah, you know what? And this would be one of those that I think I could actually move him down a tier after about a week or so. I'll still keep him up there, and really it comes down to Clyde. I mean, you still have the multiple studs in and Javonte's even kind of fallen off, to be honest, a little bit in the last 10 days. You're starting to see a lot more Melvin Gordon hype. 2 weeks ago, I really thought, okay, this is going to be 70% of the backfield to Javonte, where now I think it might be more 60-40. So if that happens, this is where I would move it down, because I don't know if I'd consider Javonte a stud right out of the gate, but he's got the potential to be. I mean, he could be a top 5 back. If he ever secured 75% of those snaps in that offense, you got to love Javonte Williams just based on what he looked like last year. So if Henry stays healthy, Javonte stays healthy, he's got his 2 studs. And then I think it comes down to just Clyde. I really thought I thought Ronald Jones was going to get cut in that offense. So him making the roster kind of dampens the Clyde Edwards-Helaire hype a little bit. But him falling into the late 6, I mean, that guy was a 1st-round pick in our league 2 years ago. He was a 3rd-round pick last year. So it's still the Andy Reid running back that everybody has kind of just thought would emerge there and be a fantasy stud. It hasn't happened. He hasn't passed the eye test. This is kind of his last hurrah. I think if he falls on his face this year, nobody's going to pay him a contract to make him a starter anymore. So I don't know. I have a gut feeling that Clyde is kind of a guy that might surprise based on ADP this year, because he's fallen. I mean, I just finished a draft right now, and I think I got him in like round 7. So it all comes down to Clyde for Kenny. If Clyde becomes, just even a high-end RB2, I really like his 3 big backs, and I'd still kind of put him in that top tier.
Nice. Don't disagree. Now, the next 3, yourself, Wade, Musa, we have in the depth section. So let's go check out your roster, Casey. Talk about your running backs.
I really wanted Barkley this year. He was a guy that I've never owned. I really think a bounce back is coming in that Buffalo offense. So, I kept Aaron Jones, and I kind of just knew that I didn't want Aaron Jones to be my 1. Barkley's a low-end 1. I think Aaron Jones a high-end 2. And then I'm on the Pierce, bandwagon right now. I mean, that's to me where I got myself in this tier is I think Dameon Pierce is legit. I think that guy is, I'm getting higher on the Texans offense in general. It's kind of low on Davis Mills really being a thing there a month ago, but the Texans offensive line is pretty good. Pierce, It was the Marlon Mack getting cut thing that I think where I move this tier, where all of a sudden I love Dameon Pierce right now. He's going to get 20 plus carries. He's going to get the red zone. Rex Burkhead is not a guy that scares me. He might get some third down stuff early on, but Pierce, I watched some of his tape. He can catch at Florida. He got some balls downfield that impressed the crap out of me because I thought he was just a kind of a physical grinding power back, but he's way more athletic than I realized after I got him. So
did you get him in the 8th?
8th. Yeah.
So here's the thing. I was going to take him in the 8th. I didn't have a 7th. I would have taken him in the 7th if I had a pick, because he was the guy I was like, oh, shit, I don't think he's going to make it to me in the 8th. I don't want to take him in the 6th necessarily. And then I think there's a couple guys who I think probably maybe saw that San Francisco game, were like, oh, shit, this guy. And just I
was worried about Ian and Wade. I kind of had flagged. I know Jeffrey said he was right after my pick at Pierce. I think he went Goddard right after me, but I know he said that I sniped him on Pierce by one pick. But I no chance. I remember in 7 thinking between him and Tony, and just thinking, you know what, I'll punt running back a little bit. I had no chance did I think Pierce was going to fall all the way back to me in the 8th. So I was really happy with that. And then, I didn't love Michael Carter, but he fell late. And right now, Breece Hall has not impressed me at all. So
not a lot of buzz is not good on Hall. Sorry,
at all. So yeah, no, I think Barkley becomes a top 6 back again right off the bat. I think he stays healthy, and I think that offense is a lot better. I think he catches a ton, and so I really like Barkley. And then Aaron Jones, same thing. I think with all the question marks in the Packers receiving room, like he's going to catch. I think he's going to be out there with Dylan quite a bit, playing in the slot, catching balls, and his numbers on games that Devontae Adams has missed are out the roof. I mean, that guy basically averaged like 7 or 8 standard fantasy points more when Devontae Adams misses, which is like 14-15 in our league with the yardage difference. So I do think Aaron Jones has a chance to pop without Devontae Adams there, because they just know that he's one of their 2 best weapons. They've got to find a way to get him the ball.
Yeah, I can see that, especially as you mentioned, they can put A.J. Dillon in the backfield, play him at kind of a quasi-receiver, running back, motherfucker spot, and just get him the ball in all kinds of different ways. So you got Wade and then Moose. Let's go check out Wade's backs. Shattered Dreams. Change that name, Wade, for God's sake. Shattered Dreams. What are you, an 80s pop song?
Yeah, and he's not going to be able to do it after. You can't change your name after you win, I guess. It's kind of a rule.
True.
So, same kind of thing. This is just depth. I mean, he's got 3 backs that I'd put in the top, 16, 17. Low-end RB1 in Kamara, and then Zeke and Connor, who I don't love, but those guys are RB2s with the way the league falls. When you start to look at some of these other teams and who their RBs are, I mean, Wade's got 3 really good guys. It all hinges on James Conner. I mean, Connor just impressed so much last year with his touchdowns. He's a top 10 back. If he becomes that again, along with Kamara, then he's got his 2 studs. And then Zeke is the ultimate question mark. You just don't know what you're going to get out of him. But, everybody was so down on him, and Jeffrey kind of brought this to my attention. He finished as like RB6 or 7 last year. So he's good. He's going to find a way to, the Dallas is going to feature him. He's going to get his goal line carries. The Pollard, takeover is probably coming at some point. But Zeke, everybody kind of thinks that he was injured last year, and maybe he was, but he played through it and still finished strong. And he's great as an RB2, and really Wade's treating him as an RB3.
Yeah, pretty consistent. Zeke, yeah, you get the Pollard kind of boogeyman behind him, but
yeah,
he produces. He's the goal line guy. He can still catch. He can get you 4 yards. He's just not sexy anymore. And I get it.
That's the thing. Their offensive line has taken a big hit and it's gotten old. So you worry about that with Zeke because he's lost his explosiveness, which, back in the day, he was getting 4 or 5 yards before there was any contact. So we'll see if that holds true.
Musa's got a lot of names.
Here's his depth. He's got options. And so, I think ultimately his team's going to come down to Cam Akers, if what he looks like coming off the Achilles. 2 years ago, that guy looked like, he was putting up monster numbers at the end of the year when he finally took over for the Rams. And then we missed him all last year until he came back in the postseason and looked bad. So that Achilles injury is a real thing. And if you look back at the history with running backs, and we'll see, because if he can hold off Henderson and be the 1A and kind of avoid Henderson being the 1B and just take over there, which I think is what, McVay, though he's saying stuff differently, he wants a workhorse back. He's always been that way. So if Akers can show that he's healthy and can handle that, then he's good. Najee kind of has some red flags with the foot injury right now, but same thing. When I said Fournette, Najee either led the league in receptions or targets, one of the two. So it's a new offense in Pittsburgh. So there's some question marks there, but you got to like, the two low-end RB1s, high-end RB2s there, and then just a ton of depth there. I mean, Singletary's got, he'll be the guy out the gate for Buffalo. Singletary, look at his final 5-6 games last year. That guy was a monster for about, the last 4 weeks of the season, he's throwing up 20s and 30s. So if he holds that on, James Cook hasn't really exploded yet. So I think Singletary is going to get the first opportunity and arguably, one of the top 2 or 3 offenses in the league. Then he's just got a couple handcuffs there, but I really did like Mostert. The same kind of thing what I talked about with Chase Edmonds when Sonny Michel got cut. And I haven't heard a thing on Gaskin. Mostert is what Miami wants to do with breakaway speed, fast. He can bust some plays. And when Mostert's healthy, Mostert's a legit RB2. We just haven't seen this Miami offense with what under McDaniel to know how they're going to use him. But I'm assuming right now that Mostert's going to get, 30-40% of the snaps there.
And now we move to what we call the hero anchor running backs. We've got one kind of monster stud, top 3 running back, and then we'll kind of see how they do it, which is kind of how I did it last year.
It exists, and I know teams have had success with it, but you're banking on a lot. So I give you credit. No joke, you guys have the 2 best running backs in the league. Taylor's 1, McCaffrey's 1. Either way, you want to slice it, but the other one's number 2. So you've got a legit, number 1 back that's going to go up against anybody's number 1 back. Then just a bunch of question marks behind it at 2, where right off the bat, Eli Mitchell's actually really good as a 2. So, you might be a little bit lower, and I just kind of wanted to put that hero RB in its own tier underneath the top 2 tiers. But, if you look at Mitchell Taylor, that duo is probably better than, let's say, Musa's duo of Najee and Akers. It's probably better than even Wade's duo of Kamara and Connor or Eazy, just because of the difference that Taylor can make, or McCaffrey. But I've got you guys down now. Patterson, I don't know what to expect out of Patterson. That guy, if he does what he did last year, then Morrow's running backs belongs up in the top. That guy was a top 10 running back for a while there. So
is he 31 now, 32?
Yeah.
He's just kind of a hybrid, but there's nobody really, pushing, breathing behind his back here either.
The depth isn't there. No, it really isn't. So they could use it the same. Now it's a different regime there a little bit with a new quarterback. So I don't know where to flag him. But Patterson was a guy that just kept falling in drafts. I can't remember how late you got him, but
he's just not sexy. It was late. I think it was 10, 11.
It was 9 or 10, 11 in that range for sure. Just nobody wanted to pull the trigger on it. I was actually surprised Musa didn't keep him. But then there was no value there if he was going to fall to 10 or 11 anyway. So, and then you've got, the handcuffs there, which is always kind of the Morrow strategy is let's just play it safe and get the guy that if Mitchell goes down, I got Wilson. Taylor goes down, you got Hines. I do think Hines has some standalone value quite a bit.
He started quite a bit for me last year.
Yeah, and Matt Ryan's been a guy that wants to dump it off. The problem with Hines last year was you just never knew when the game was coming. He had his big 20, 30-point games, which is exactly what you want out of your RB4. But you didn't. Then when you started him, that's when he was giving you those 5s and those 2s. And so it's a tough guy to hold on to. But when you have Taylor, it's kind of just a mandatory guy to have on your bench because it's the hedge against him.
Let's go check out Ian. Eno Benjamin, Mike Davis, Gainwell, the Gainwell Hines bet. We'll be keeping an eye on that all year. But obviously it begins and ends with McCaffrey.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just don't like his number 2 week 1. I think it's got to be Tony Pollard. And like I said, where Ian wins the league is if Eazy goes down and Pollard becomes a 1. Because, McCaffrey, I think I saw somebody tweet this the other day. If McCaffrey hadn't missed games the last 2 years and had stayed healthy, then in all honesty, it would be unfair to play fantasy and have the number 1 pick. He's that much of a difference maker.
That's when he was rolling. He was the dude.
He's scoring 8 to 10 points more than even Taylor on a game by game basis when he's healthy. Now, again, same thing. New quarterback there. I don't really see Baker as a check down guy, so I don't know if those targets and receptions are going to stay there. But it is McCaffrey, and we've always seen it. It doesn't matter if it's 3 years ago, if it's last year when he was healthy. They find a way to scheme him the ball. So I really like McCaffrey. I have not been lucky enough to get the one pick in any draft I've been in this year, but I would have McCaffrey over Taylor if I'm going one, just shooting for the ceiling and the upside there. So he's the best running back in the room, but I just don't like, Ian does this a lot too, where he just rides all these handcuffs and he tries to hit the lotto ticket late with guy kind of taking over. He's banking on Henderson versus Akers, and he's banking on Pollard versus Eze. But until one of those things happen, I just think almost any other team in the league's RB2 is beating Ian's RB2.
Probably true. All right, we've got maybe about 4 minutes here, Casey.
I'll fly through these guys.
Don't have to fly, but we'll just kind of do it a little quicker. So you got need help or a hit, and then the 0 RB. So we'll start with AJ. Let's go check out AJ's backs. I don't even remember who AJ's backs are.
I mean, AJ, the problem where I got AJ down is he's got 2 decent ones in Cook and Breece Hall, but he left the draft without the ability to get Dalvin Cook. I mean, he had Dalvin Cook sitting in his lap, and he makes the trade out of it. And so, Stevenson's good. He's got depth there. He actually belongs more in the depth thing, but I don't love Chubb and I don't love Breece Hall. I don't see an RB1 on his roster. It needs to be Chubb, but that offense with Brissett there just scares the crap out of me. And, he'll need Stevenson to hit. That's kind of the guy he needs to hit, either him or Hall. But Brian Robinson, I don't know if we'll see him this year. Isaiah Spiller, they brought in Sonny Michel, so I don't think they like what they saw to Spiller. I'm not big on Rex Burkhead being anything more than just, I don't even know. Probably a guy that gets dropped in a couple weeks after you see Dameon Pierce. So, yeah, to me, he needs Breece Hall to be something, and I've just really flipped on Breece Hall here in the last 2 weeks. I mean, he just didn't look good at all in preseason. He reminded me of Trent Richardson.
Rex Burkhead can go fuck off for this week 16 performance, by the way.
That's the one you remember right there. And then, we look at Blake. I mean, you knew Blake was going to go receiver heavy when he went Adams and Jefferson. So we kind of just wait, and then he drafted Russ. So he just didn't get really one of the top backs. I do like ETN, but it looks like James Robinson. Now, I really like what Blake was able to do late. I mean, he got Damian Harris, Hunt, and Miles Sanders all really late, like in rounds 8 through 11, which is crazy because those guys are all playable. I didn't really like the David Montgomery pick, but he reached on him in 4, but he's a solid number 2. He's missing. He does not have an RB1 on his roster. I mean, ETN and Montgomery are all kind of 2s, and then Hunt and Sanders are all low end 2s, 3s. Hunt's the X factor there. McKissick's always playable, but there's just nothing sexy there.
No, there's not. But it's not the worst thing in the world either. You can kind of piecemeal that together on a
ETN is the guy. I mean, ETN would be the guy that if somebody's going to become an RB1 in that room, it would be ETN.
Cappers, he's got the Hawks. He kind of the Walker pick.
I know.
Early, but he got Penny,
he got saved getting Penny. I mean, out the gate, he can start Penny and Dillon, and it's good. And he's going to need J.K. Dobbins to become kind of a guy, but he's got Drake there. So I don't mind his running backs. He just, same kind of thing. He does not have an RB1 staring at your face in that room. They're all a bunch of RB2s right now. So if Penny finishes like he finished last year, then maybe there's something there, but I don't like that offense. I don't like the offensive line. Kenneth Walker's coming. So he's just got a bunch of kind of hedges. He's really high on Walker. So I think, it's funny. I think, he doesn't want to see Penny do well because he's waiting for the Walker to come in and take over.
They drafted him in the second round for a reason. They're going to play his ass. And Carroll just can't wait to run the ball 40 times this year, which is why we have the Red Zone channel, so we don't have to watch the Hawks all weekend. Okay, or all year. Last but least, Los. Where's Los at?
And honestly, Los got really, really lucky with the Brian Robinson news. The Antonio Gibson thing was huge for out of that. I mean, he finally got an RB2, but he's got to have somebody on his IR, does he? Or is it just those 3 guys?
Yeah, he's got some IR.
He's got James Robinson down there. But I mean, this is this is the one where this is the 0 RB. I mean, Josh Jacobs, we talked about it, was Amir White early on and what we think McDaniels might do with that running back room. I'm not sold on Jacobs getting 20, carries a game. And we've seen Gibson disappoint year after year. He has stretches last year where he looks good, but McKissick's playing on third down. And the fact that really it looked like there for a stretch that they wanted Brian Robinson to be the starter and to be the goal line back, I don't know what that says about what that coaching staff thinks about Antonio Gibson. So he, you knew that his team was going to be quarterback heavy with the two keepers. He had some strong receivers, but running backs right now, I mean, if he's going into week 1 with Gibson and Josh Jacobs, those guys to me are, mid-level RB2s at best. He's got nobody that can go heads up with any of the stud RB1s that I feel like are on other people's rosters right now.
Yeah, it's a thin roster. All right, Casey, thanks for breaking down the running backs. SKFL Week 1 preview, hopefully coming later this week. May have you on, Casey, if you're available. We'll get a couple of people on for that. But thanks for giving us your stuff, your thoughts on running backs. And who you got Week 1?
I go against Jeffrey. We got brothers early on in the Carl. I think Keenan versus Ian, me against Jeffrey right off the bat. So Jeffrey's got a really good team. So I'm trying to, it's that same thing. He's got Pitts, and he went your strategy kind of with Pitts and Goddard. So, and I punted tight end a little bit. So I'm really worried about how that tight end room's going to go. I do like my receivers over him. RBs are kind of a wash, and then I just we got a big matchup, Lance against and Justin Fields. Those are kind of our guys, and they're going heads up against each other. So that's going to be the game we're streaming here in the zone for sure to find a way to watch our two quarterbacks.
All right, we'll look forward to it. Okay, we'll talk to you later
this week. Rob, we got football in 3 days, man. So we'll figure out where to watch it.